What's up, everyone? I'm Doug Kyde, joined as always by the Posen Michael Hurley. Michael, the Patriots won a football game.
They
Third time
kicked an ass.
this year. Yeah, they really did.
They kicked an ass, Doug. It was like, let's just get right into it, Doug. I didn't know that they could do that. So good for them. Like, I didn't know, and that's a team. I mean, the Bears sucked today, obviously, but that's a mediocre team. They're not
Yep.
bottom of the barrel. They're not a complete disaster. They were 4-4, and you went in and you made their home crowd hate their guts, and that's something to be celebrated. So good job by the Patriots.
I haven't watched a full Bears game until today, but despite their record after watching today, I would say they're bottom of the barrel. But overall, based on their record, you're right. Like they've played better than, let's say, like the Jaguars or the Titans or other teams that the Patriots have lost to this season. So it is absolutely something they can hang their hat on. We all knew the Patriots weren't going to be good this season, but I think the expectation was that they would be able to compete in games like this one. And not only did they compete, I'd say they dominated the Bears in this game.
So first half, no, but by the way that they fit in at first half, like my note in my notes, because I take notes for this podcast, basically is why I'm taking notes now. It was like the first half. It was only, what was the score at halftime? I'm blanking. Was it 3-0? Was it 10-3? Did they score right before halftime?
I think so.
God, Michael, take better notes.
It was 13-3.
Really?
Sure was, because they had that drive at the end of the half where they got the field goal.
Okay. So the point is, at halftime, it was like great half. And then it was just sort of, what do they do now? Yeah. Because that was very much in question. And then they just smothered them in the second half. So it wasn't perfect in the second half, but I would say it was domination because they just never let up. They just kept whooping ass till the end.
This is not a Chicago Bears podcast. This is not Bears Chat. This is not a Caleb Williams podcast. This is Pat's Chat. We talk about Drake Maye most of the time.
Ooh, buddy.
But I would say, like, I mean, this was my first, like I said, first full game watching the Bears this season. I know that Caleb Williams was much better at the beginning of the year. Actually, you know what? I actually have watched full Bears games, but not this intently. I would not be feeling super great after watching Caleb Williams in that game. And I know that, like, he's going to be better. He's going to improve. He's a rookie. Like, maybe Drake Maye hits the rookie wall at some point too. But just some of, like, the body language stuff that Caleb Williams had, and, like, he was running himself into sacks. He was flopping. It was just a overall not a great performance by Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I texted a friend of mine. I said, he looks like Daniel Jones. Like, he looked like some of the throws were just that bad. There was one, so he threw it out to the right flat and missed his receiver by a mile. And then the camera closed on his face. He was like, and he literally did the tip signal that a ref does when a ball's tipped. Like, he was almost telling the world, like, that one wasn't my fault. And it's just like, if that's what you're thinking of, I don't know. Like, his 9 sacks is a lot of sacks that at a certain point becomes your fault. You know?
Yeah. I am very curious to rewatch the game with, I'm not going to pretend like I have a stopwatch. I'll just use my phone. I would guess most of those sacks were 3 seconds and over. Like Del Pettis came in unblocked. I'll give some credit to the pass rushers on a few of them, but for the most part, those were coverage sacks. Yeah. And it's Caleb Williams either, like, not making a good decision to throw the ball away, not throwing it to a receiver, or in the case of one of Anthony Jennings' sacks, like I said, just like straight up running into a sack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, 9 is a lot, but it was the Del Pettis one that made me put, like, the star circle highlight. Like, they are clowning on this team. They are in bed because they sent Tavai up the middle. Pettis lined up on the edge, like, I'm coming, and there was no accounting for it. No. It was just, I feel like more often than not this year, the Patriots have been the ones on the other side of that beating. So I think, we've talked about it, like, it's a long season if you go and just take beatings every week. So I think this does a lot just for I know it's nebulous and sort of you can't enumerate it, but it does a lot, I think, for the entire building when you can have a week like this, I think.
No, I think it does as well. I mean, like, the locker room was fired up after the game. I can say that from my experience of being in there. They were all talking about their sacks after the game and how many everyone had. And, like, they were just real excited about everything. And do you know how many sacks 9 sacks is?
9.
it's so many sacks that the Patriots haven't even allowed 9 sacks in a game this season. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of sacks. Patriots haven't even come close to allowing 9 sacks in a game this season. And the Patriots, out of any team in the NFL, would probably have like the right to allow 9 sacks because of their offensive line situation, but somehow theirs is even worse.
Yeah. It was, man. And not only just that, like he was 16 for 30.
Yeah. I mean, his accuracy was all over the place.
He's now lost to the number 2 pick and the number 3 pick.
I think now over the last 3 weeks, he's under 50%, unless he just like inched over 50%, but
probably not, because he was one pass over 50%. So we said this on the Pats Chat podcast earlier this week. They came out. Remember, this was my sort of question to you and sort of challenge to the Patriots. I said they came out of their bye week and scored 15 points. The Bears did. Then they scored 9 points. How many will they score against the Patriots? Well, we know now it's 3. So that was pretty good. And it wasn't even like, it wasn't a fraudulent 3. It was a legitimate 3 points. They never really, it wasn't
they didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, it wasn't like they got to the 10 and fumbled. It wasn't. It was the real deal.
There were no missed field goals.
Yeah, it was the real deal.
Like some of those, like obviously you kind of give the Patriots credit for almost anything this year just because it's been so bad.
Yeah.
So they're having games like the win against the Jets. Like the Jets shot themselves in the foot a lot in that game. This wasn't a game where like, yeah, the Bears were very bad. Obviously we can say that, but it wasn't, as you were saying, like those situations that lead to 3 points. It was a legitimate 3 points. And we'll talk a lot about the defense, but like in a game going up against DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze, and none of those guys went over 44 yards. Caleb Williams only had 120 yards passing. And like, as we said, I think a lot of the sacks were coverage sacks. So a lot of credit goes out to the Patriots secondary, Christian Gonzalez being the big name in there, but Jonathan Jones played like half of his snaps at free safety. Del Pettis is an undrafted free agent who made 2 big plays, a sack and a pass breakup. Marcus Jones was out there making big tackles. You had Marte Mapu starting in the secondary because Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers are out of the game.
Do it.
Hawkins made some big plays.
Keep going. Do it.
Yeah.
Brenden Schooler.
And then obviously Brenden Schooler. Like Brenden Schooler is like his own like section of this podcast. But like no one's made more out of 5 defensive snaps than Brenden Schooler. Like Brenden Schooler after the game was like a must write about, a must talk to. And he played 5 defensive snaps, but holy God, he had a sack. He forced an incompletion on a QB hit. He was out there spying Caleb Williams in the Longhorn package. And like, he did it fantastically.
Yeah. The sack was like, you see it too often where the spy just gets sort of complacent and stays behind the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
He was like, all right, bingo. Like it was a smart play. It wasn't just like a scheme thing. Like he made a good read and sort of understood the type of player Caleb Williams is, that when he saw the opportunity, he just floored it. And that was cool. Like, again, how many things you have to celebrate this year? Go crazy, go, paint the town red. It was fun.
And like Brenden Schooler is obviously probably, if he's not the best special teams player in the NFL, he's certainly up there among them. But since he came in the NFL, basically no defensive snaps, which is actually kind of surprising. Like I'll get into my like nerd Doug thing. Brenden Schooler was a true freshman starter at safety at Oregon in 2016. Like started like every game, was a very good player for them. And then basically like didn't play defense again until today. So like kind of a wild career trajectory there for Brenden Schooler. But I do think that based on how he played today against quarterbacks like Caleb Williams, I think he's deserved to carve out that same role, even if it's like 5 snaps every few weeks against an athletic quarterback. Let him do it. He was great.
I agree. I want to look up, you would probably know offhand, because I feel like the predecessor to Brenden Schooler was Gunnar Olszewski, where it's like Bemidji State, where he was a safety, right?
He was a cornerback.
Corner. Okay. Well, he was a defensive back. Then he converted to receiver here. Yep. But the difference was where he was always the undersized underdog.
Yeah.
Schooler doesn't seem undersized.
Schooler's like 6'2", 210. He's like a big dude.
That's
he runs a 4.4. Like he was a crazy athlete at the combine.
Yeah.
He or the pro day, probably he wasn't invited to the combine,
6'2",
but
210.
yeah, that's what I said, right?
You might have.
I might have
I
heard.
don't listen to the
Who's
Past Chat
listening?
podcast. No, but I think that was my point. Was like it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like you throw him in and he had a random good game and could never do it again. It's like, well, I don't know. He seems like a football player.
Yeah, and I think that they should probably use him that way. I don't know. He had a weird college career where he played wide receiver half of his snaps. Played a lot of special teams. He was Justin Herbert's wide receiver at Oregon at a certain point. So it's almost a case where like he should probably be a defensive player. He just got kind of like jerked around in college enough that when he came to the NFL, it was like, you're the next Matthew Slater. And he's like, all right.
We should get him on the podcast. I'd like to know this story because he, like you said, he had 74 tackles and 4 interceptions at Oregon.
Yeah, as a freshman at Oregon, he allowed 2 touchdowns and had 4 interceptions. And then he
was a receiver. He had 20 receptions for 274 yards as a sophomore. Then he transferred. He was receiver at Texas, moved back to safety, had 143 tackles and 4 interceptions and 55 receptions for 661 yards during his career. We got to get him on. Ask him if he wants to be on Pat's Chat. We're a really fun podcast.
Just a really, really wild NFL career. I think the story is that like Justin Herbert asked him to move to wide receiver or something. I think they were roommates at Oregon, something wild like that. But fascinating guy, fascinating career. And this is a weird way to think about it, but Patriots just signed him to a 3-year, $9 million extension. Like if he can carve out a role on defense, I know people probably like laughed at that extension when it happened, but like in general, I think a special teams player that good is probably worth $3 million. But if you can start tossing in like occasional defensive snaps in there as well, could be a nice little deal for the Patriots moving forward here. So
certainly if you look at all of the situations that the Patriots have going on, most of it's bad. Yeah. But I feel like the opportunity that this has presented itself with the safeties being out, at least there's one beneficiary of it. That was a tough word to say.
It's a tough word to say. Yeah, Brenden Schooler said that on third down, he just kept on looking over to Marcus Covington because since it was a Longhorn package, like Covington would like flash the Longhorn symbol, but like he just seemed like giddy about the fact that he got to play defense today, which was really honestly pretty cool. Like you said, a lot of negatives this season for the Patriots, and this was a major positive. One odd situation, Kendrick Bourne dressed for this game. He was active, did not play a single snap. 2 players on the Patriots roster didn't play today, Jacoby Brissett and Kendrick Bourne. Overall, today was a good game for the Patriots. They won, so this didn't hurt them. But the constant jerking around, for lack of a better word, of the offensive line and wide receiver core has been a confusing aspect of this season because I thought that after Bill Belichick left, some of these things would become more clear because he would do weird things, but it was like, well, it's Bill. He knows what he's doing. Now there's weird things happening all over the roster. And like I said, it worked out, but it's not as if like playing KJ Osborne in this game allowed them to win. KJ Osborne didn't have a catch, and he was the one who was playing over.
He did have one.
He did catch a ball, but he went offset. He went out of bounds first. Yeah.
That was actually pretty funny. Again, you are Mr. Big Shot in the stadium. I am Joe Schmo at home. Whoever called this game, couldn't tell you who it was like, and Maye rolls to his right and he throws it away. Oh no, it's caught for a touchdown. That was a pretty cool play. I don't actually fault him for that because he was kind of pushed and barely went. It's not like he screwed up. He just got ever so slightly. But yeah. I think if the idea is booty.
Oh, hold on. One quick thing on the Osborne catch or the non-catch. That pass was ruled incomplete with illegal touching. He caught the ball.
They went to the replay and it looked like he got his feet in, but it probably didn't matter.
I guess they ruled it incomplete and it didn't matter, so they weren't going to reverse it. But that was confusing to me in the moment because I'm like, he caught the ball with 2 feet in bounds.
Yeah,
it should be a catch and a penalty, but I digress.
Maybe the fact. No, yeah, you're right. But if the idea is like Booty, Douglas, Baker, and Polk are going to get all of your receiver snaps, then it's fine. But it's like the fact that Osborne got as many snaps as he did kind of throws that. But there was one play last week in Tennessee, the one that should have been picked off up the left sideline to Bourne, where it looked like Bourne and May had two separate ideas of what to do. That's one gaffe. Bourne's had some drops.
Yeah.
But you're not in a position, I think to your point, the Patriots aren't in a position to be like, hey, NFL caliber wide receiver, you're benched, because they just don't have enough talent there. I mean, their leading receiver today was Austin Hooper.
Right. And it's not as if like Kendrick Bourne just joined the team a week ago and he's messing up and he's not doing the right things. It's like he's been on this team since 2021. And like, yeah, he didn't have the greatest game last week, but it still felt a little odd to be like, we're going to dress you and not play you a single snap because you messed up last week. So we're going to punish you, but not punish you enough to be inactive, even though you're a guy that like half the staff, not the offensive staff, but like Drake Maye knows Kendrick Bourne. Like, some of the defensive assistants know Kendrick Bourne. The front office just gave him a contract extension this offseason. So I don't know, just a real weird situation. That with the way things have gone for the Patriots this season, like he could very well be starting again next week because that's just what seems to happen on the Patriots. Like KJ Osborne's been benched like 2 times already this season. Jalen Polk's been benched.
Yeah.
I went through the list, like half the offensive line has been benched at this point. And then they just come back into the starting out lineup.
Yeah. Just another important addition from the watching from home guy. Today was Kayshon Boutte, and then color. I knew the color analyst. I'm blanking on who it was. It was someone who's been doing it forever.
Was it Moose
Darryl Johnston? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was a Boutte guy, I want to say. So you had the play-by-play guy saying Boutte, and then you had the color guy saying Boutte, and it's like Booty.
It's Booty. It's quite easy.
Yeah, it's funny because like Polk caught a touchdown. He had 1 catch for 2 yards.
But we all wrote about him afterwards because like he's been a hot topic this season. He caught a touchdown, but it's like, yeah, maybe that could spark him. And like maybe it could, but it didn't necessarily spark him in this game. He had 2 yards.
Right. You had I think Pop Douglas looked good. Like he looked probably as good. And I want to let's flip it to this, Doug. I thought this was, and maybe you could disagree with me, Drake Maye's most like blah game. Like he didn't suck,
right?
But he wasn't really the way that we talked about him last week, where he was the entire team.
Right.
He had some bad throws. The pick was bad. He should have had another pick later.
Yeah, he threw it behind Hunter Henry for a near pick.
Yep, he threw it. I think like the long completion of Hooper in the 4th quarter was to the wrong shoulder. Like I don't know if that was just because there was so much space there. You throw it to where it's easier, but it required him to fully stop and turn his body to catch the ball. Like
he threw kind of a duck to Kayshon Boutte deep also.
Yeah, underthrown. And so like I'm not going to sit here and be like Drake Maye sucks, but I think I'm kind of framing it as a positive thing because last week we were like, this guy accounted for 99.6% of their offense and they lost. I think if he can have a game like where like he was good at times, like he had it was sort of like
he's better than Caleb Williams.
Oh, for sure. But it was like the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And they had a decent game despite that. I think that's overall a positive thing.
Yeah, I would say that too. Also on that underthrow to Kayshon Boutte, I said that correctly. No one else can say it correctly, but I can say it correctly. There was a lot of focus, I'd say, in the press box over wind in this game, based on what happened last week. And outside of the stadium where we were, so on like the left end zone, there was an American flag. And at the far end of the right side of the stadium, there's another American flag. And I would say for 90% of the game, they were blowing in different directions, which I'm not a meteorologist. I don't know if you are, but I don't know how that's even possible. But it was real weird. They were just blowing in completely different directions the whole game.
You're not a golfer, so you don't know the wind like I do. There are times where you're teeing off and the wind's right in your face, and then you get to the next hole and you're like, you're going the other way, and then the wind's in your face again, and you're like, that's bogus. I just had the wind in my face the other way. So the wind does swirl. I will say that.
It was a swirling wind, I think. Yeah, there was like trash bags blowing around the field half the time that I kept like I'd catch it in the corner of my eye and be like, is that flag? No, it's just a garbage bag flying around the field.
I'll say this, Doug. I'm in a little bit of a Twitter break on account
Mm-hmm.
of having the first opportunity in my adult life to separate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really tweet during the game, but a Mike Hurley opportunity presented itself. It was a first down for the Patriots, and May was on the sideline throwing the ball like doing the little warm up throws, like
Mm-hmm.
way too long. Like the offense was ready to go, and he was
Mm-hmm.
still doing it. And so he runs out, and then the huddle breaks, and they rush to the line, and then a football rolled in from the Patriots sideline, like it blew onto the field, and someone tried to like kick it back. Someone from the Patriots sideline
Yeah.
tried to like, but not a player, like a coach. So
Yeah.
obviously, and so he like stepped, but then it like rolled away from him, and so there was literally a football just out by the left sideline, and it was like, I don't know, what the tweet would have been, but it would sort of been something like classic cheating Patriots with two footballs in the play.
Yeah.
But I let it. I didn't go back in the DVR, but it was to speak to the wind. There were footballs blowing onto the field.
Yeah, I walked around all morning. I sent you a picture of me at the bean.
Mm.
I've got the bean behind me if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter right now. And it wasn't windy at all this morning. It was like bright and sunny and nice. And then we got to the stadium and there was flags blowing all over the place. So
Yeah.
I'm larger point here. I'm not totally blaming Drake Maye for that aforementioned duck.
Well, what about the
catch on
pick? Let's do the pick because I know he said he was throwing it away. I don't believe him. If that's fair, can I not believe Drake Maye?
I think that's fair.
He was trying to get it to the receiver. Like I think he was trying to like what do they call it? Like put a fine needle through a small window. Like he was trying to thread the needle.
Classic phrase. Fit a small needle through a big window with small window. Yeah, he's trying to thread a needle.
I messed up. Football started at 9:30 today, if you didn't know, so I'm a little off. But no, like I think he was trying to thread the needle and just didn't get it right. Didn't quite have it fine tuned enough because that was a bad one.
I kind of want to give him more credit too than to think that was his attempt to throw the ball away. Like
he's good at throwing it away.
He's better at throwing the ball away than that. Like when he throws the ball away, he makes it very apparent that his intention is to throw the ball away. I think you're right. It was just like a brain fart where he was like, I'm going to try to make the craziest throw ever. Yeah. I'm going to like dude perfect this pass to Austin Hooper. And it just did not work whatsoever. And there was a defender standing right there.
It was a nice interception too. Like the toe tap was legitimate. So that was like it was not a throwaway. He had the lefty throwaway he had. That's at least his second, maybe his third lefty throwaway. That's electric. I get fired up when I see a lefty throwaway. And I do want to say this about Drake Maye because again, I said it wasn't really a game where you're like, wow, it was fine. The first completion he had, the 25-yard corner to Hooper, I made a noise again. That's 3 noises Drake Maye has. And this one was like like the throw is special. And I don't want to like I'm joking, but I don't want to I want to be serious. He makes some special throws. And I think that is what's exciting more than anything. Like the running's cool. He's going to hurt himself dropping shoulders into linebackers. He should stop doing that. But he makes like a special throw every week. And I think that is pretty cool. I
know that overall it was not a great offseason for the Patriots acquisition-wise when you're even talking about Austin Hooper being their best free agent pickup. But I will say that like Austin Hooper had a good game today. Overall has been a very solid addition to the Patriots. And finding that second tight end for the Patriots since Aaron Hernandez was released for obvious reasons has been a real challenge for the Patriots over the last 10 years or so. And Austin Hooper is not blowing anyone away, but he had 2 explosive plays today, 20+ yard receptions, had another pretty long reception as well. And it's just kind of nice to have that second tight end who even has the ability to be their leading receiver in a game, because I don't think you could ever really say that about Jonnu Smith or Mike Gesicki or all those other tight ends that they've signed over the. I mean, I guess Martellus Bennett was a solid number 2, but then he had to become the number 1 that season.
Right, that was 2016. He was, but he would have been a good number 2.
He would have been a great number 2 if he didn't have to be a number 1. But you had Hooman in there, you had Jake Ballard, you had a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have had Hernandez the whole time, but what happened to him?
We'll never know.
Yeah, but yeah, so you had the 28-yarder, and that was a field goal drive to start. So
Mhm.
that was a scoring drive,
Yep.
and then you had the interception. We'll let him off the
But
hook for
that
that.
was not his fault. Yeah.
Then you had a 24-yarder on a 3rd and 1 on a drive that was the Polk touchdown drive.
Yep.
So that was a big play, and then he had one to ice the game at the end.
Yeah.
That's not it, is it? The 12-yarder?
Might have
I
been.
thought it
Yeah.
was more than that. Yeah, well,
But it was still it was a first down. You know.
no. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was yeah. It allowed them to just kill clock, kick the field goal that made it a laugher. So good game for him. It's funny. We do studs and duds. We came up with that. No one's ever
Mhm.
done it before. It was a
Dooms
Bounce
and
Pad
dooms.
original. Boom, booms and dooms, ups and downs. Yeah, I was thinking like in the fourth quarter. I'm like, I don't know. We could put on our dink hats and like pick out some guys that had a bad game, but like really, it was a good game. Like
Dude,
yeah.
I have to do ups and downs for like my takeaways thing that I do after every game, like the immediate gamer. And I was struggling to come up
Yeah.
with downs in this game.
Because it's like you're kind of being a dink, and like I know you have to do
Right.
it, and I've had to do it in the past back when I had a job, and like you have to like really work, especially when you're doing it during like the dynasty era. Like so, like
Right.
I know what it is, and then people are like, "Oh, negative media," but you got to do
Right.
what you. So who made your downs? Like I let me guess. There was a booty hold that took away a Demario Douglas big gain, which was a pretty sweet play. I don't know if that made your list.
No, a booty hold would never make my down list.
That's true. You're a big booty hold guy. Maybe Osborne is probably a down for you.
I think I just did I did the offensive line penalties, and this was really stretching it, but I also did special teams.
Yeah, you got to kick it into the landing zone, Joey.
Yeah, because they had 2 special teams penalties. Bryce Behringer still wasn't totally at his best. He had 2 touchbacks, only 1 punt inside the 20-yard line.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What did the 75-yarder look like in person? Because I've seen some of those at practice, and I think my note from last summer or spring at one of the practices was just breathtaking. Was this breathtaking?
Yeah, it was pretty breathtaking. It was
Yeah.
a massive punt. And obviously it would have been even cooler if it was like 74 yards and landed at the 1 or something, but
But
he totally flipped the field on it.
to me, it's like because I have the number. I didn't have these numbers specifically. I had to check. So they had the penalty for the illegal formation. Before that,
Yeah.
it was a 54-yard punt to the 16.
Yeah.
And so so Barron goes like, "All right," bombs away, and I think it like landed in the end zone.
Yeah, it was yeah, it did. It was absolutely insane. But otherwise, like I really didn't want to call and this isn't even me like, oh, I didn't want to call anyone out. I didn't want to be a dick. Like it was legitimately difficult to come up with someone who played poorly. Like obviously the performance was not perfect. Defensively, it was like
Yeah.
pretty darn close.
Defensively was perfect.
But offensively, like, yeah, maybe some of the offensive linemen could have gone in there, but like then I'm not being true to myself where like if I'm just looking at PFF's in-game tracker and calling out downs, like I don't think that's fair to do.
Wait, does PFF? I wanted to ask you this: do they account for centers snapping the ball off their own buttholes, like Ben Brown did in the first drive?
I think it might have been fair to possibly throw Ben Brown in there because there were a few snaps that were off the. There was one off the butthole, and there was 2 I think that were kind of off in general. Yeah,
I'm trying to remember. There was a shotgun snap where May had to kind of. It was maybe a third inning. He had to kind of go, but he made it. It got there, like it.
right.
But again, it's like you're talking about a guy from the Raiders practice squad that's trying to make it.
Right. Yeah. And overall, they had Vidarian Lowe with leading with 4 pressures allowed. Like Vidarian Lowe has been a very steady presence at left tackle. I was talking about this earlier with Mark Daniels and Chris Mason. Like he's a guy that you can like pencil in for, let's say, like 3 pressures per game, but it's so much better than the alternative that could be there at left tackle that like you can win with your left tackle allowing 3 pressures per game and kind of being a steady run blocker back there.
It's the second hardest position in the sport.
Right.
So I don't know what to do. You could, I don't know, like, could you put Drake Maye in there? Yeah. I mean, the pick was bad. He had 184 passing yards. Yeah. The 19-yard run was sweet. I would put him in because, again, it's like, dude, slide. I don't know. There was his first run. He leans forward and allowed someone to just put a helmet in his rib cage.
Right.
Later, he dropped a shoulder into Edmonds. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. You want everyone to be like, yeah, I love Drake. He's a badass. But, like, you're going to pop your, like, people get hurt in this league a lot. It's
Sometimes
dangerous.
you just have to assert dominance by leading with your throwing shoulder into a linebacker. Okay,
Fair enough.
You wouldn't understand. You're just a watching at home guy. You didn't understand the presence in the stadium that brought
That's true.
when you did that. So no, I agree with you overall that you'd probably prefer him not to do that. But I quite honestly in this game, there were so many options for ups that I was like having a hard time narrowing them down. I came up with Austin Hooper, Jeremiah Farms, Del Pettis. And this one, like, I probably could have thrown in any of the other pass rushers, but I did throw in Jalen Polk just for like getting on the board with a touchdown because it's just been so negative for him over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so that I think it was important for him to make that play. But no, I mean, like, Anthony Jennings had 2 sacks, Dietrich Wise had 2 sacks, Keon White had a sack and led the team in pressures.
Shouldn't that have been a penalty?
Which
one? When he went like at basically helmet to Williams' shin.
Oh,
I was just waiting for the going low flag, but they didn't call it. But
right.
I liked this one play from Keon White. It was late. It was probably in the 4th quarter, maybe the 3rd, where DeAndre Swift kind of juked him the way that a slippery running back might do to a defensive lineman, and juked him and kind of left him in the dust, and then broke to his right. And then I think maybe someone forced him to like juke again, and then White just came and clobbered him and was like, it was
Stop
like
messing around back there.
Yeah, it was nice to see. That was a good play. But yeah, Farms.
Yeah, Farms had a big game.
Yeah.
He played a lot too. More than he has been playing. Devon Gottschall actually played fewer snaps than Jeremiah Farms in this game. But I think probably a lot of that might have been like the Patriots getting out to an early lead and forcing Caleb Williams to throw more often. But
I'm going to look up some Caleb Williams stats while you're talking because, like, this his worst game, do you think? Just anecdotally, I'll look it up. But just if you look at the total package, I've seen him play 3 times before this.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched all his primetime games. I just haven't watched as closely as this one.
Passer rating wise, he had a 63.2, which would be not his worst game. It would be his 4th worst game. So he was 10 for 24 at Washington,
right,
with 131 yards and no touchdowns or picks. He was 14 for 29 against Tennessee, which is tough. And then at Houston, which was a prime time, 174 passing yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Not great.
PFF gave him, this might be in-game tracking. He might have already like finalized it, but 56.2 grade, which is his 3rd lowest of the season. The first 2 weeks he had his lowest, like a 43.8 and 49.1.
Yeah, Tennessee and Houston.
Yeah. So those were what PFF.
Tennessee, wait, one of those games he got sacked 9 times as well, right?
Jesus.
7 times against Houston. It feels like 9. That game was tough to watch.
I'm tired. I've been awake for a long time. I didn't talk about his body language after they called a timeout in one play, right? Yeah.
You mentioned body language, but you did not expound. So please enlighten us.
It looked like he was going to like throw a fit because they called a timeout, and like he was like, oh, and then like walked over to like even like towards the sideline, just like put his hands on his hips. I was like, what is going on right now? Why are you like? I guess he thought he had an advantageous situation. I think Brenden Schooler was on the field. So I think he might've been like, nice, I'm going to like go after Brenden Schooler on this play. And then they called it a timeout and he's probably like, God damn it, I didn't get to target the special teams player. But I was just like, why is this? I don't know. I mean, it's possible. Do you think that the Bears should fire Matt Eberflus?
Well, I want to ask you this because I don't really know that. And I'm down on firing at the moment. I would say, you've been in Gillette for some low vibes games over the past few years, as have I. How it seemed like something special was going on today, vibe wise.
Yeah, the vibes were low. I was pretty shocked at how early they were booing the Bears, considering they came in with a 4-4 record and have a rookie quarterback that they're supposed to like adore. And it wasn't even just like we're booing coaching or play calling. Like it was like kind of booing the offense. And Caleb Williams is part of the offense. Like I don't even know if Patriots fans would do that to Drake Maye at this point. Like boo plays that he's directly involved in.
There was like, and again, you don't expect everyone in the stands to be like, oh, the route combinations on this third down were insane.
Right.
But sometimes it was so obvious. I'm trying, like, this was late in the game after he had taken so many sacks. I think it might have been one of their last possessions. They had a 3rd and 23 after back-to-back, 3rd and 25.
Yeah.
And he completed a 5-yard pass over the middle. And it's like, I know the game was over and they were just trying to preserve the quarterback at that point, but there was just multiple instances where you're like, what are they doing? You know, like where it's just blatantly obvious, even if you're half drunk and paying attention the best you can, where you're just like, they didn't do this, but like, did they just run an inside draw on 3rd and 7? You know, stuff like that, where you're like, what is going? So I think that's what a lot of the offensive booing was. I don't think they were like,
no, I agree. They were booing Caleb Williams, but it was just like, yeah. By the way, like, so the Bears are going to be building a new stadium at some point soon, which like, go ahead, because Soldier Field should be so cool. It was like, it's the oldest stadium in the NFL. They like the 85 Bears played there, all these things. But then they like 20 years ago just dropped what looks like a spaceship into the middle of a Roman Coliseum stadium. And it's just the dumbest looking stadium in the NFL, has no history whatsoever. When you're in there, you're just like, yep, this is a generic football stadium that for some reason has like brick columns outside. I don't know. Bad job by Chicago. They should have a much cooler stadium. They will eventually, but it's kind of lame that's going to be new and not the one that was built in the 1920s.
How's the spot though? Like, I like a downtown. It's downtownish.
You can see downtown from it, which is definitely cool. I wish that was the case at most stadiums, but it is like kind of it feels like, it doesn't feel like it is downtown. It feels like they've put the stadium in a place that's near downtown. I don't know. That's not the greatest. Like I know that this area
Fenway
was
Park?
not built to like, I guess, I don't know.
Is it that close or is it farther away?
Yeah,
like
it's that close.
You
but
can
like,
walk from Fenway to like the financial district.
Yeah, like,
but it's not close.
I don't know if you can really like walk that easily to Soldier Field. So I don't know.
Wait. What if you're at the Bean and then you want to go to the game?
You could. It's probably like a 2-mile walk.
Okay.
Maybe a mile and a half walk.
It's a long walk.
So it's not on an island, but there's a highway, and then it's like separated from the city on the other side of the highway. So to some degree, it feels like they've like put Soldier Field on an island that you have to like.
Well, the point is, I think the other one that they're planning is like in a suburb. So that's lame. Your partner, Andrew Callahan, has sent me a photo. Give that a minute to really focus in, and it's the Bean.
You deserve that.
I responded by saying, "God damn it, Andrew."
So they've bought land in Arlington Heights, which is like 40 miles away or 40 minutes away, but they don't know if they're going to build the stadium there because after they bought the land, Chicago was like, "Ooh, wait, maybe you can have it here. We've changed our mind."
Fun fact: I grew up in Arlington Heights.
Wow.
Not the Illinois one though, but
wow. So they're gonna put Soldier Field in Arlington Heights, Massachusetts.
That'd be sick. Shout out to D'Agostino's. The business is about to go through the roof. Sports, etc., everything for hockey and more. It's going to be a big day in Arlington Heights. No, we're not a Chicago Bears podcast, but I find that interesting because like I remember it was a Sunday Night Football intro. Hey Jack, that's a fact, and you had Urlacher like destroying the columns outside Soldier Field, and I remember someone saying like that's like a national historic landmark, and it's like disrespectful to the troops or something. So it was a kind of a funny thing, but yeah, it
is Soldier Field.
Can I ask you this though? Let's just do stadium talk. You've been to Levi's, I take it.
I have.
I would say of all the new stadiums that I see on TV, Levi's looks like absolute junk.
It's dumb because they put all the suites on one side. So if you're looking at the stadium from the side, it looks like an office building because it's just a bunch of like windows.
And I think they did a bad job with the sun angles. It's too sunny and
Yeah.
gross. I never like watching a game at Levi's.
It's bad when you screw up a stadium. I don't know if you saw it today during the Cowboys game. CeeDee Lamb lost a ball in the sun in an indoor stadium because Jerry Jones built the stadium the wrong way.
No,
Good job by him.
they can. This has been on the internet recently. They can close that, like for concerts,
right?
like that are at dusk or whatever. Like in the summer, they have a shade, but Jerry likes the way it looks on the broadcast when they're getting blown out by the Eagles. So
well, they didn't score a touchdown today because of it.
It did, though, result in one of the best Tom Brady pictures of all time.
Yeah,
the Deion Lewis game.
Were sick. Yeah.
I mean, the Deion Lewis play is like the memorable part, but I remember the pictures coming out like after, like, oh my god, like these are phenomenal. Art. So
I think we were using those at Nesson for like 4 years afterwards because they were
also
cool.
Though to that point, does Jerry Jones want to be the artwork capital for Tom Brady and the Patriots? Probably not.
Speaking of the CeeDee Lamb drop, Demario Douglas had like an alligator arm catch or like.
Oh, I want to talk about that.
But I like it's the number. I did not blame him whatsoever for not catching that ball because it was short of the sticks. He was about to get laid out. He was going to get tackled. There's no way that he was going to get first down. So I was like, sir, drop that ball and do not take the hit.
And if Daryl Johnston was calling the game, I'm going to give him credit because he was criticizing Douglas for saying, hey, you got to settle down here, find a spot in the zone, get open for your quarterback instead of running into traffic. And I was like, I think he was starting to stop his momentum and settle in that pocket.
Oh, yeah.
But the ball was already out and it was maybe a little bit of a quick throw. I don't know if there was pressure on it because again, you watch the replay and you're like, dude, come on, alligator arms. You could see him stop his momentum, see the ball, and then like lean for it. And it wasn't like a lean away.
No,
it was like he kind of had already begun. I think he was trying to settle down. We'll never know, unfortunately. But
I mean, I could ask him.
Yeah, but then are you being a dink? And then is he going to hate you forever and not talk to you when you want to ask him something important?
I like Pop.
He'd
be chill with it.
I think again there was the play. I'm trying to remember. Let me check the notes. There was. Yes, it was early. This one counted, and it was before the interception. It was sort of it was a quick pass to the outside. It wasn't like a bubble screen. It wasn't like, I don't know. It was a cool pass, but May had to like jump around the defender and sling it. It was a hell of a throw, and then he threw an interception. But that was a cool one.
That was a cool one. Overall, good game for the Patriots. I don't know how much more there is.
We could do.
Run game was better, and so I was asking players after the game like why they were able to defend the run better, and they did a new drill this week on Wednesday, where after individual drills they had half the offensive line. They did like half line drills. They had half the offensive line go up against half the defensive line and just like go at it, like just like bang into each other and practice both run blocking and run defense all in the same drill. And apparently it was very effective. And maybe they should have done this like 10 weeks earlier because now all of a sudden the Patriots could run the ball and defend the run in this game. And I was convinced at one point that the Patriots would never be able to run the ball again. So it was like pretty impressive to see them run the ball pretty well.
I'm not in the business of like being happy for people, but I have a soft spot for NFL running backs because they're abused and used and thrown to the curb. Like their bodies don't matter. And I think it's sad. So I actually, excuse me, I have some seltzer bubbles moving all around, but
hate to see it.
I was happy for Ramondre Stevenson because he had 10 carries for 16 yards last week. And the week before, I don't know, as a team rushed for 55 yards the week before. So like, I didn't think he looked bad during those games. Like he was actually running pretty well. Yeah. But they weren't blocking. So for him to have 74 yards, some big first down pickups. I know he didn't score. Like he was a good player for them. I do have some. You said you weren't sure. Here's some quick hits for you. All right, ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Jet sweep, reverse flea flicker for a gain of 7. I laughed. What'd you do?
I was just happy they were trying something cool.
Were they?
Hey, it picked up 7 yards.
It was a jet sweep, reverse flea flicker.
It was wild
to the right flat.
I was like, when's this play? I quite honestly, I was like, when is this play going to be over? Like, where does this end? How
was
many times are you gonna move the ball to someone else?
it was kind of similar a few weeks ago because Detroit ran that ish.
Yeah,
The same at the same time. If you were watching Red Zone a couple weeks ago, someone else ran it. Detroit ran it to perfection and threw it down the field for a big completion, and the other team turned it over. I forget who it was, but it was funny to see that. All right, that's one. 4th and 1 opening drive. Mayo goes for it. That's a week
I
after
liked
not
that.
going for 2.
I
I'll
liked
tell
it.
you, I didn't because of exactly what happened, where it's like you go for it, then you gain no yards and you kick the field goal anyway. It was kind of like an unnecessary risk.
I guess.
It's not like they gained any yardage after it.
Right. Well, they didn't know that.
I know, but that's like sort of what you factor into the risk is like we could turn the ball over and score 0 points, or we could get it and then kick the field goal anyway. So
I was happy to see any sort of aggression. I feel like they've been as conservative as you possibly can be this season. I haven't like seen the specific stats on aggressiveness versus conservatism or whatever, but I feel like they in 90% of situations they're choosing the conservative angle. So I was just like, thank you, be aggressive. This game doesn't really matter.
And to be fair, if Osborne had stayed in bounds, you would have had the sickest touchdown of the year a few plays later. So, all right, there's that one. Another one, I don't know if you caught this. There was a sack, or it was after he got hit. Caleb Williams was just lying there, and Anthony Jennings was reaching over his dead body to pick him up, to help him up, and then he got up and patted him on the head like a little kid, and it was like, oof, that's tough.
Yeah, that felt like that. Was that one of Caleb Williams had like 2 flops, I think, right?
This was not a flop.
It wasn't one of his flops, but yeah, that was pretty funny.
All right.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Not using Antonio Gibson until it was like deep into the 4th quarter and you had to drain the clock, and then all of a sudden you're using the running back who fumbled like 2 weeks ago, who hasn't played all game. I don't know if that was a little weird, but it worked out.
Yeah, the broadcast was like, look, they got fresh legs, and that's great, which might be true.
He ran well. Like I said, like props to them, and it worked, but I thought it was weird.
It's risky, I think, to throw anyone into a game that hasn't been playing, at a position like that.
Yeah, like he's like literally cold on the sideline. Like it wasn't like it was 80 degrees outside in Chicago. But true. I don't know, like I don't want to be too critical after this game because they won everything, but if he has that ability, he was pretty good early in the season. Maybe use him more. Also, I don't know, like maybe try to throw to your running backs a little bit.
Yeah.
They just don't do it. And I think they could get some value out of it.
Yeah. You had Stevenson with 1 catch for 3 yards. You had Hasty with 1 catch for 4 yards.
Yeah. And like Gibson was a college wide receiver.
Yeah. Big body.
Hasty was a good receiver too.
Let's talk about the negative of the day, Doug, which is they went from the 1st overall pick to the 7th overall pick. There are so many teams with 3 or fewer wins.
Crazy.
Let's play it out, because you had the Giants and the Panthers today, which I think that was a good outcome for the Patriots, because the Panthers aren't going to win many games. The Giants have a good enough coach where they might win.
Yeah.
I don't know schedule-wise, whatever.
Yeah.
So Carolina got to 3 wins. The Jets, who were people betting money out of their hard-earned cash to win the Super Bowl this year, are 3-7 now. They got blown out by the Cardinals. The Dolphins are a 2-win team. We think they'll probably win some games, right?
They should.
Right?
I think so, yeah.
Theoretically.
They're playing to win.
Raiders have 2 wins. Don't love their chances.
No.
Browns have 2 wins. They'll win a couple more.
Probably. They're talented enough.
Yeah. Titans, maybe not.
I don't think they're talented enough.
Jags, maybe not. So, as
did you see Mac Jones after his QB sneak touchdown?
No, I saw the touchdown. I didn't see him.
He was talking an inordinate amount of shit to like everyone who would hear it. I was like, scored on a QB sneak. I don't know.
I mean,
cool play, but
they scored again after that, right?
I don't think so. I think he threw 2 interceptions after that. I don't know.
It looks like he had a passer rating of 38.3 today.
Yeah. I don't know. Mac was a decent guy, so I shouldn't be laughing about him.
He did have 5 rushes for 8 yards, so joke's on you. But yeah, anyways, when it comes to that top pick, like last week, it was like, hey, well, because that was the last game we said they should win, the Titans game. This was a game they could win. There'll be some games they could win. I think the number 1 pick was becoming more real after last week.
Yeah.
And in just the snap of a finger, you're 7th and could end up like 5th I would say they're probably going to have the 5th or 6th pick in the draft.
They probably will, and ultimately, it would be best for them to have the number 1 overall pick. But
it's just too hard to get it. It's too hard
to get it, and like you want to see improvement ultimately this season to show like something.
Yeah,
heading into next year, and then also, if we're being honest, it's probably not going to be the greatest year to have the number 1 overall pick. Like I don't know if teams are going to be knocking down your door to get Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward or
all I'm
Quinn,
going to say,
like,
though, is like the Panthers traded up to get Bryce Young. The
right.
49ers traded up to
no,
get
it's
Trey
true.
Lance. Like, teams are dumb.
Yeah,
the
teams are dumb.
Rams next week are in the mix. We'll see them tomorrow night against Miami, and then they're coming to New England. That seems winnable. I know they've won 3 in a row.
Here we go.
No, it's not a should win. It's not a should win. It's a prepare because it's a could win because like they've out of their bye week, the Rams have been good. They've won 3 games, and one of them was against the Vikings. So it's like we have to take it seriously. Let's see them. Like let's take a close eye tomorrow night, and I can watch primetime games now because I'm not waking up at 4 a.m. So I like that. That's an interesting because you have the Dolphins. You have the Rams playing a Monday night, traveling across the country.
Not easy.
Against a Patriots team that stinks. Like, let's not get it mixed up. Right. But is going to be feeling as good as they have all year. So next week is a winnable game, and you might have yourself. It might. I'm not betting my money on it.
Winning streak? Oh my God!
You could have an actual winning streak before you go down to Miami and lose down there. Probably.
They, in all reality, they like kind of should be on a 3-game winning streak right now.
I mean, should is a strong word, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
They played really crappy against the Titans
until the very end. Yeah.
But yeah, like, and then like things have changed. If you look at the preseason, like they have the Colts. The Colts are actually somewhat decent. They played the Bills pretty well today.
Did they? Joe Flacco was trash in that game.
Well, it was close for a while. That's all I know. I was watching the Patriots, but then you've got a bye week. Arizona has now become a difficult game, I think.
Yeah.
So
they blew up the Jets.
When it comes to winnable games, you've got the Rams, Chargers, and maybe just the Week 18 just because. So.
No, I would say the Colts are winnable.
Okay. Well,
they don't know who their quarterback is. Like, I think any team that doesn't know who their quarterback is a winnable game. That's just something I've historically thought throughout my life.
I think like 30-20 against the Bills is all right. It was 10-10 for a while. They were up 13-10. I have box scores in front of me, so I know what I'm talking about. I'll stop now. But I think for the team and the season and all that, but then there's also like their win total was at 4.5, which I think has been fascinating. Like from the jump, like when they won in week 1, you're like 6 wins. And then when they lose to Miami and Jacksonville, you're like, they might not win again. So at least they keep us on our toes.
I don't want to be argumentative here.
Do it.
But I do want to raise a point that the Colts scored their last touchdown with 8 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And what would you be saying if the Colts lost that game 30-13?
It's called a comeback, Doug. I'm sorry you don't believe in an underdog story, but they were winning at the 6:35 mark of the second quarter.
Yeah.
So
no, that's fair. But they should have lost 30-13.
One more up today, by the way. Joey Sly scored.
Oh yeah, 4 for 4.
He was like he scored 13 points.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Like Drake Maye was their offense last week. Joey Sly was basically their offense today.
And it was windy as all hell. One of his kicks, the wind was blowing. He was
struggling in pregame too.
Well, the wind was blowing so hard left to right that when he lined this one up, it entered like outside the frame and looked terrible, and then just was like it cleared the goalpost by like 15 feet.
Yeah.
So
good job bringing the win by Joey Sly. Yeah.
Veteran play by the big boy. He's getting bigger as the season goes on.
He's got dad strength. I've probably said this on here already, but Joe Cardona told me that Joey Sly bench presses 150-pound dumbbells. And that Joe Cardona has never seen any other NFL player do that.
I want to look up what a 150-pound dumbbell looks like. Because I'll do like 35s. I think that's a good amount for me. Like I'm not trying to get ripped. I'm just trying to tighten up the man boobs, you know.
I personally find doing dumbbell bench press kind of annoying because like I'm not gonna lie. I'll do like 70s or 75s, but it's annoying to get it from your knees up, like because it's like a whole like body movement.
Right.
It's like, well, why don't I just not have to do that and just bench press?
I figure that's a good thing for me because I'm like, if I'm engaging my core and my body and my fat loser body, like any strain is
it
good.
can help. Yeah, that's true.
But I'm not doing 75s because I'm not as strong as you. So, different strokes.
Well, I'm half as strong as Joey Sly. So
yeah, well, good game for him. Any other thoughts you have? I think we hit all my notes.
I think we hit on everything. It was I mean, it'd be cool if there's more games like this. Like I'm not like obviously I'm a journalist here. I'm impartial. I'm not like cheering for the Patriots, but it's fun to see a good game,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and I would get back to the point I started with. They bullied and embarrassed a team that's like, okay, it's not a terrible team. They played terrible today, but they made them suffer. Yeah. And I didn't know they could do that. So good for them.
This is I just because my phone was on our like traffic site and traffic chart right now. The Herald's top story right now is Boston hardcore punk band singer Wesley Isold sues WWE wrestler Cody Rhodes, and somehow I didn't write that story. Just kind of wild. But like, so American Nightmare is one of my favorite bands, and it's just very weird to pull up our site, and just keep seeing his name on here. But it's fun.
Maybe you should bump into the coverage if maybe
I'll talk to Wes.
I have to say, get on it.
Fellow shirt slinger in the past, Wesley Isold.
How do you and he feel about the Yankees?
Suck.
Yeah, there you go.
They drink wine coolers.
That's true. I had the I don't know how old I was. 14, 15. I had the one with the full roster on the back. I've probably told you.
Nice.
Everyone sucks, but Jeter swallows, which is, in retrospect, I hope everyone would give me a pass for buying that shirt when I was in 8th grade or 9th grade. I hope. If not, I apologize.
I was going to say, like, I can't mention half the shirts that we sold back in the day because it would be problematic, but
the whole industry took a turn when the like LeBron is a bitch shirts came out because that was just funny. Like they stopped beating around the bush and being clever, and they were like, "This is how I feel." Yeah, I probably shouldn't say. Well, I went to a Maryland BC football game in 2008, and Ralph Freegan was the coach. He's a very large man, and I might have lent my brain power to some signs that were made that were not nice, but it was funny.
Poor Ralph.
And again, I was 22, so maybe I should have known better, but I didn't, and I'm sorry.
There we go. All right, we'll end on that note. It's all canceled, Michael.
No, like and subscribe.
Oh, yeah. No, don't do that. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all those fun things.
I don't think I can be canceled this week, Doug.
That is true. Leave in the comments, leave your favorite shirt that you ever saw or bought outside of Fenway Park or TD Garden that I might have sold you. Or if I didn't sell it to you, then maybe Wes I sold from American Nightmare did.
But deal.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.